Survivor Season 41, Episode 8 recap coming your way. Now, last week's episode, Episode 7, really brought this season from the grave. Great episode last week. I feel like Survivor's finally starting to get back on track. This episode was okay. It wasn't great. But it wasn't bad, and there have been some bad episodes earlier in this season. I feel like it was more of a setup episode for next time. I feel like there's going to be some drama ensuing from the coming attractions in the preview at the end of the episode. So I think it's coming. It was a decent setup episode, so let's dive right into it. Let's start off at this reward challenge. So Survivor's bringing back reward challenges, which I'm all for. That's fine for me. I think that is great. I love seeing challenges. I feel like they have been getting away from challenges. I love to see a good challenge. The thing that I didn't love so much was Jeff trying to introduce another twist, in the sense that we have to draw for spots. One person's going to not be picked, but if they look around their bench on the sit-out spot, they could find an advantage. And I don't want this. I don't want any part of this. I don't care if you're on the bottom of the totem pole. We already have enough advantages going on at this point. I think it's just too much. So they draw rocks, and it's like the same exact draw as last week, and Erica's on the outs again. And she's just like, oh, you got to be kidding me. I hate drawing. And Xander steps in and is like, nah, I got you. I'm going to go sit out. And he got some looks. I think people were a little confused as to why he was doing it. He later on said that he likes to hang out with the losers after a challenge because that's when they're most vulnerable. And that's how he can kind of strategize, because when you lost a challenge, you are feeling down, you feel like more willing to strategize rather than the winners. They're going to go off and eat grilled cheese and they're just going to be happy and no one wants to think about the game at that point. But we all know Xander's a solid player. He is very aware of everything going on, and the producers, they panned to him looking for an advantage. He was looking this way, underneath the bench. And thankfully, he did not find it. Now, I'm not saying I'm not rooting for Xander at all. I like Xander. I'm actually rooting for Xander. But adding another advantage, it's just, it's not needed. It's not needed. I think it would just created a lot more chaos in the game. I don't want it. And I know it's probably going to be coming back next week because Jeff is all about it. He's like, how are we going to sneak this into next time? I know that's what he's thinking behind the scenes. So the winning tribe, they go off and they win their grilled cheese sandwiches. And Shan brings up this drama about Ricard coming back and taking a little sliver of papaya. And she's like, you just ate grilled cheese. You're eating our food. First of all, Shan, you didn't go get that food. Nasir went off, found that food, and was fortunate. You were fortunate enough that he shared it with you. So you're just acting, I don't know. I don't know what the right word is, but Shan, it's not like you were hoarding that food. Like, let the guy just take a little sliver. Like, just calm down a little bit. Like, I know you're starving, but he's not acting entitled. He was just, oh, look, a papaya, boom. You probably would have done the same thing. Oh, papaya, oh, I don't know. I don't want to speak for anyone, but it would be one thing if you went off and found that, but Nasir did all that work, and you're benefiting from someone else's work. So I think this is a key moment. It's a little thing, but it's showing that Shan is starting to crack. And she's going to start alienating her closest allies in the game pretty soon. I think from what we can tell, she and Deshawn got into a big spat, multiple spats this episode, and the coming attractions for next week, it's leading up to it. So you know how I said this is a setup episode for next week? I think this is what's coming next week, is that Shan is just going to implode. And she is rubbing people the wrong way. What's interesting is that she's playing so hard that she's forgetting a very, very crucial element of the game, which is jury management. Because if you make it all the way to the end, Shan, and you're treating people like this and talking to Deshaun and not hearing him and just pushing and bossing and saying, no, I want Xander out. No, this is the way. This isn't the Mandalorian. This is the way. No, that's not going to work. People aren't going to like that. And clearly Deshaun doesn't like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are some cracks in that majority alliance heading into next week's episode. The immunity challenge, we get to it, and Jeff gives them a proposition. You can sit out for a cup of rice, or if a group of people sit out, then I'll give you a bag of rice for the entire tribe. And Shan's just trying to I don't know. She's like, I'm a pastor. I do it for the people. I hate to see people starving. We can do it, guys. Let's step forward. And I'm thinking, the three people that stepped forward first all had idols. They were safe. They had some safety in the game. No one else wanted to step forward, but they don't have that safety. They don't have that pleasure to give up immunity. If they don't win this immunity, there's nothing saving them. It's literally just trust in their tribe's hand at that point. So they're probably going to get some brownie points for that. I wouldn't be surprised come a final tribal. If any of them make it and they try and pull that card, well, I stepped up and I sacrificed immunity to give the tribe some rice. Nah, I don't know. I mean, you had an idol in your pocket. So Ricard eventually was the one that really risked it because he has no safety whatsoever. And those four sat out. And it actually ended up benefiting them because everyone fell out of this challenge within 2 minutes. And the challenge lasted like 3 minutes total. And before this challenge, the plan was for Evie. Evie's the one getting out, which had to get her last week. We need Xander to flush his idol and vote out Evie. And guess what happens? Evie wins immunity. That's how it always works. Best laid plans of mice and man always go awry. So Evie beat out Heather too. Heather outlasted Danny, Deshaun, all these, killer athletes up into this game. And Heather came to play. Heather's starting to get some airtime. I'm about to talk about Heather in this tribal council. Now, this is what I didn't really like about the episode, was that normally in an episode of a Survivor, when you go into tribal council, they edit it so that it's pretty much one of two scenarios. And then if there's like a major twist, then it's kind of like a blind side to everyone. And we're like, whoa, oh man. Otherwise, it's pretty much like, okay, we're going to vote for Evie. No. We shouldn't vote for Evie. We should vote for Tiffany. And then the audience can kind of play along and be like, what would you do in this situation? I would definitely get Evie here. Or let's get out Shan. She's on a power trip. She's bossing people around. I would do that. Production usually gives us a glimpse into different scenarios in which it could go. However, this episode, they didn't give us anything. And then they weirdly were alluding to a live tribal happening at tribal with Tiffany saying like, it's about to happen. Shan saying it's about to happen. And then Jeff slow plays it. It is time to vote. And he was obviously like, he was waiting for it. That's all he wanted. Jeff loves the live tribals, and he was slowly doing it. He was prompting them to do it, and then out of nowhere, as soon as he finishes, Heather's like, ah, like, Heather, what? Heather, I've been rooting for Heather. Okay, I've been keeping notice of Heather. Most people are like, who the heck is this? What's her name? What is she doing? And I think there's a big debate here as far as Heather's rationale in trying to create mayhem at the last second. Some people can view this as it was all planned. They wanted to make a fake live tribal to try and flush either Nasir or Xander's idol, because only one vote ended up going Nasir's way after Heather was trying so hard to tell people to vote for him. And I don't know. Either way, I like to see that Heather's actually playing the game. And you got to give some kudos, because she was able to convince Tiffany that she was safe to some capacity, because Tiffany was ended up getting voted out this week. But I didn't really like that confusion at the end. Now, this is a highly contested debate, whether you think that people should be able to get out of their seat at tribal council, or should they have to stay in their seat? Like, live tribals can exist, but people have to just say it out in the open. They can't go over to someone and whisper in their ear. Now, up until this episode, I've never had a problem with a live tribal. I've always found it, quite frankly, pretty entertaining when people go up. It keeps me on the edge of my seat. I say, what are they going to do? And you can kind of follow along a little bit. This one, though, it seemed just kind of forced. It followed a really good live tribal last week. And if you think about it, the very first episode, JD caused a live tribal. So there's been a lot of live tribals this season. And I think this one, it rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. I just thought it was a little forced. Had no idea that Tiffany was going home. She really wasn't mentioned at all. I don't know if that was production trying to get us, because Tiffany had been getting a pretty good edit up until this point. A lot of people had her going all the way. I don't know. It's just, there wasn't a sense of satisfaction in it. We didn't really get to see why Tiffany was the one landed upon after all that mayhem. So I don't think they really did a great job showcasing that. I thought that was just a little sloppy on their part. But going into next week, I think, like I said before, I think it's going to be a setup episode for next week. I think next week, some stuff's going to go down. Shan and Deshawn really got into it. They got into it at Tribal, where Shan is domineering her alliance. She's not listening to anyone's opinion. She's just overpowering everyone. I don't think she realizes how forceful she's coming across. And if she doesn't, then that's just not great gameplay on her part. Sure, she's in. She has an idol. She has an extra advantage. She's in the majority alliance, but I really do think it's going to start to backfire moving forward. All in all, good episode. No crazy revelations. No stupid twists. At this point, I'll take this episode because I was starting to get worried that Survivor was going downhill. If Xander ended up finding that advantage, and it ended up being some stupid, overpowered advantage, I would have probably hated this episode. And I'm nervous that they're going to try and implement it next week. What I'm also nervous about is that when I went on to the Survivor game within the game, Jeff's little sneak peek into the next week is giving a situation in which the tribes are split in two. And do you stick together as an alliance, or do you just fend for yourself at that point? So it seems like there's going to be a twist in which the remaining 10, we're down to 10, are going to be split off 5-5 for immunity. And one of those 5 of the losing tribe is going to get voted out. Why I don't like this is that there are 3 individual immunity idols out there. And we could get something very similar to that one season where Sari was voted out purely because no one else could be voted for because so many idols were played. So I'm a little nervous, depending on how the tribes are split out, how this will work. I like individual immunity challenges. They've already done the tribal. We're at the merge. I don't necessarily like that they're splitting back into teams at this point, but we'll have to wait and see. I am excited for next week. I think it's going to be, I think there's going to be some explosiveness from some of the players, specifically Shan. And to conclude this video, let's talk about some power rankings. For what it's worth, I think I ended up putting Tiffany in the top 3 maybe last week. I think a lot of people were riding the Tiffany train all the way up. Really not... I don't care that she was voted out. I wasn't really rooting for her. I think she was a better player than she initially led on. But I am proud to maintain my Heather prediction. I've been saying it from the beginning. This is just the beginning for Heather. Start playing, girl. Like, you are emerging as a strong challenger. She took second in this immunity challenge. She's starting some chaos, and I know a lot of people are probably rolling their eyes at this, but hey, I mean, she's positioned herself okay so far. So she got a confessional. She's getting some love finally, and she's feisty. They had to bleep her out a lot. So I think Heather has a lot to show. It's nice to see that they're showing her. I do think Xander is by and far the most aware. He just knows what's going on. Like Ricard forcing him to play his idol was so pathetic. In an attempt to flush Xander's idol. You should play your idol. Yeah, you should play it. You should play it. Play your idol. Play your idol. And Xander's like, yeah. And Xander's playing it really cool. He's telling people what they want to hear, but also playing far back enough so that he doesn't really come off as a huge enough target, except if you're Shan. Shan's dead set on getting out Xander, but everyone else was like, I don't know about that. So we'll see what happens. I think, so Xander, Heather, and to round out power rankings, I think Deshawn standing up to Shan, I think is a step forward in Shan's demise. I don't think she's going to win. She played really well up until the merge, but she is starting to spiral, and it's going to be bad. I don't see her getting votes if she makes it to the end, unless she does some really impressive maneuvering. But you really have to I mean, these are people, right? You got to treat them with respect. And as good a player as Russell was, and how much he deserved to win the game, I understand why he didn't, because people just hated him. Like, if you hate someone, then you're not going to vote for them to win $1 million. So that's part of the game. Hey, you gotta play the cards right. You bring someone else who's also hated, so that at least amongst the two hated people, you look a little bit better because you actually have some game maneuvers behind you. So we'll wait and see. All right, guys, until next week, I'm excited.